Welcome to the podcast, where street smart, business smart, all kinds of smart people share their insights into the world of marketing, career journeys, and personal growth. So sit back and prepare to get enlightened with your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast where I bring you the best and brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Tribe, excited to welcome my guest today, Kyle Burt. Kyle is all about adding value in so many ways. But first, a bit more. Kyle Burt, aka #CatchKyle, is a solo technology entrepreneur and live podcaster who has built a profitable consulting business on the back of $3 million in service contracts since leaving behind a decade of corporate AT&T in 2016. We'll certainly talk about his story in a bit. And what he does, he helps IT and business leaders make faster, better decisions throughout their purchase of cybersecurity, cloud, and telecom services to enhance business. As a content creator and podcaster, Kyle has been creating weekly content for the past 3 years, most recently as a LinkedIn Live beta tester, and he was kind enough to have me on the show, dialed in, and has aired over 60 times in the span of 10 months. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn Live, best practices. Kyle is full of tech and all that kind of good stuff. And as I said before, he's kind enough to have me on a few months back. As well, Kyle was instrumental in getting our LinkedIn Live feed for our Dallas event, Talent Connect Live, this past September. And this dude knows what he's doing. We're going to certainly dig into that and a whole lot more. We had a chance to meet in real life. Kyle's the man. I appreciate him, and I'm thrilled to have him on the show. Kyle Burt, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Hey, thanks so much, Adam, dude. I feel like I don't deserve that intro, but I love it, man. That's great. I'm humbled by that.
You know, it's so funny. I do that intro and everybody says the same thing. And what I'm trying to do is, like, I was a big wrestling fan. Like, I don't watch wrestling anymore, but the wrestling intros, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Like, this is a show. This is entertainment, right? Like, let's get it going here. You know, a lot of people kind of pre-record their guest intro, but I like to do it in front of the guest because I have it written, but I interject my own, you know, I ad-lib on it. I make it, man. So let's dig in here for a minute here.
I might actually steal that from you.
You can steal whatever the hell you want from me, man. I steal a lot. If I could steal any of your tech in this awesome, hopefully anyone who's watching it on video, Kyle's got the dopest setup, and he's talking about his new setup, and we'll show that in a little bit there. But let's jump in here, right? Like, what I miss in my intro, you've been doing this a long time. Before we even get into the content piece and going out on your own, tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Yeah. So started off pretty much mopping the floors at Singular Wireless, right? So ground up, that was my career. I was there at Singular Wireless selling the first iPhone when it came out. And like, so I've always been infatuated by tech, but I'm a sales guy. Like, I'm a sales guy in tech, right? So I'm not actually the guy that that plugs everything in, but I've kind of become that a little bit, right? Because I'm so in love with it. So the sales aspect of it, right? So I spent a decade with AT&T. I climbed the ranks from mopping the floors at Singular Wireless to PCG, like Premier Client Group at AT&T, where I had like 20 accounts here in Dallas, and kind of made my ranks that way. And then, you know, I realized, like, hey, this whole corporate gig, like the spot that I was in, like, there was a joke, right? People called it the graveyard. This is where you go to cruise. It, like, it's a safe space. I mean, that's, historically, you just go there to cruise into retirement. That's what they called it. So I'm like, man, it was cool. Like, I love AT&T for the lessons they taught me and for bringing me up into the business world. But I'm like, you know what? I got this now. So I left. It was actually my daughter, when she was born in 2015, like that moment of holding her in my arms. And then, you know, some of the typical like BS political stuff that you get into at work with, like, you know, I'm a dad now, I need time off. And then, you know, they're not going to give you the time off. Like, you know, some of those things like make you upset a little bit in the micro moments.
Right.
I'm
exactly.
like, you know what? Screw this. Like, the moment I held her, I'm like, I quit. But, my wife reeled me back in real fast and said, no, you need a plan. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I do need a plan.
Shit. Wait a minute, right? Like, yeah. you let the emotions get the best of you, right? But it's those life moments, right? I mean, listen, this is your show. You're my guest here, and I'm not going to talk about my story, but very similar. You know, yeah. when you take stock of your personal inventory and you think about what's important to you and how you're going to make sure that those people that are most important to you are fed, taken care of, right? You got to look down deep and say, listen, is what I'm doing right now going to get me there? And you did that, man. So let's talk business first. You know, you built a strong consulting business, and not everybody could do it. And you and I have had offline conversations about the discipline. But what it really starts with is that trust with the clients, right? How do you build, or how did you build those trust and relationships in the very beginning?
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard, right? I'm not gonna lie. Like, it is very, very hard, especially when you're a recruiter. How many recruiters are there? I'm a technology consultant. How many technology consultants are there? There's tons of us out there, right? And there's going to be tons more, right? People are attracted in some ways to these industries, right? So how do you build trust? How do you build that? I mean, it kind of starts from like at a basic level of like knowing how to build rapport with somebody, right? Like forget the business side for a second, like building rapport with you, like Adam and Kyle, like one-on-one, mano y mano. Like, how do you and I like build rapport and like actually feel like, hey, we at least like each other enough to keep talking, right? And then from that point, you just keep on building on that.
Yeah. So let's pause on that for a second. So let's give everyone a little bit of info here, how it started. I mean, we've probably been connected for about a year at this point. It's been a crazy year.
Yep. I think so.
Tell me if I'm telling this right. So we connected on LinkedIn. We exchanged, we had a conversation over the messenger there. We had a phone call, right? We actually connected.
A Skype call. Oh, no, I mean a Zoom call, sorry.
Yeah, we had a Zoom call, so we connected live. We continued to have that conversation over a few months. I came up with this crazy idea to have an event in Dallas at the same time as LinkedIn Connect. We tapped into Kyle, who's an expert in LinkedIn Live, and he was kind enough, we'll talk about that, to help us out with that. I flew to Dallas. We met there. We hung out. We did this event. Now I have Kyle on my show, and that's how you do it. You actually have to put the work in, and you don't always have to fly to Dallas to meet people, but like,
no.
It helps.
It does help.
But to your point, like, it takes time in relationships, and so many people think it's a quick fix, and they go for that quick sell, man. Right? I mean, it takes time to foster relationships. So why do you think so many people, like, listen, people get excited like you and I, and they decide to go out on their own. Some of them have a plan, some of them don't. Why do you think so many people, fail going out on their own?
Because like, solo entrepreneur, right? Like, everything is on me. Like, I got to file my taxes. I have to I have to work with a CPA on my own. I got to do marketing on my own. I got to do sales on my own. I got to do support on my own. So like, it's a lot. Like, it is a lot. So if you don't systematize things, someone said this, I forget who, but like whoever gets organized first wins.
I love it. Yep.
And I think I really like summarized that. It was much longer and much more elegantly put than that.
But you synthesize it. We get it.
But the first one to be organized wins. So how organized can you get? How quickly can you get organized? And then how can you go win with that? So putting structures in place, putting process. The thing that you can't ever structure and process, no matter what we try to do, like, is building relationships. I've not found a structure for that. If you can find a structure for that or a process for that, like, give me the secret sauce. But I've not found that. That's the one thing in business that you cannot like put a cookie cutter process on. You can, but you're going to have like limited results. Like, you can spam message 1,000 people on LinkedIn and you probably get 1 or 2 buyers, but like, you pissed off 997 other people.
It's not worth it. Right. But there are ways, right? Like, when you talk about systems and processes, like, I have my own databases, my own, like, Google Docs templates I use to make sure that I am checking in. But to your point, those check-ins are deeply personalized.
Yeah, I use an app, like I use a CRM. I'll kindly shout it out. It's called close.com. It'll remind you to be like, hey, the last time you spoke to Adam was 2 days ago. You guys normally speak every day. What's going on? Like, it'll like remind you, like, those things like that, like using AI. Like, yeah, those tools help, but then they're not going to contact you for me. I got to still contact you. And I got to know what to say, and I got to know that rapport to build. Like, there's no like AI for that.
So interesting. I want to double back to something here. You mentioned you're a solopreneur. I'm a solopreneur. And a lot of people think that there really is a huge benefit to having that co-founder, that partner there in business. Do you think you need that?
Dude, you do not need that. I was on a live stream with a particularly very large LinkedIn personality, live streamer guy, and he said the words, and like, he's a good guy, right? But I'm not even going to say his name, but he said the words, you have to have a co-founder to start a business. And I cringed at that moment, and I commented, I don't ever send hate to anybody, but and it wasn't hate. It was just like, no, you don't actually need one. I just had to put
proof
that.
and point, right? Like proof and point right here.
Yeah, you don't need a co-founder.
But what was his logic? Like, what was his reasoning?
That's the point. I mean, there was, I don't recall exactly his full logic or reasoning for it, but essentially he said, like an accountability partner, right? Like that's what a co-founder was for him. And like, well, I have accountability partners. I'm married. My wife is my accountability partner. I have other partnerships. Like even though I'm a solopreneur, like the one thing that I will say about being a solopreneur is like, you got to be very careful. There's a dangerous possibility that you will end up being very, very lonely if you don't surround yourself with people. So there is that aspect. But if you surround yourself with the right partnerships and with the right people, like even though I'm structurally, legally, I'm a one-person company, but you would never be able to tell that because of the partnerships that I have. Like when I go in with a customer, I'm in there with Adam and Greg and Paul and Samantha, and we're like trying to help the customer. Because I have these other partnerships and maybe they're also structurally a one-person organization, but together I know my swim lane, they know their swim lane, and the point is we're helping the customer.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, there's two sides to that point, right? Like I get it. Like I don't know that conversation. I know who you're talking about. But I think there's a personality trait too where, and I think you and I are kind of very similar in this, like we need to be driving the train, right? We need to be the one in control of it. And here's the other thing too. And something that I love, because I've never been my own business owner until 2.5 years ago when I launched it. I kind of like the pressure. I love the pressure of that success and failure. It starts and ends with me. I'm ultimately responsible, meaning I have nowhere to hide. I don't have to blame anybody. Like it's all on me. You have a partner. Like I could see that going back and forth when if things go bad, like whose fault was it, right? When you're your own, sole entity, it's all on you.
Right. So another thing too that I always think about, like, and I can't help but not to think about this, it is almost, and I say this and like, it's going to sound negative, but it's a positive thing, I swear. It is almost like disgusting the amount of ways that you could actually make $1. Like it's like it'll make you sick to your stomach thinking about like all the things you could do to make $1. Like you have to like focus on one, of course, but realizing of just the abundance, that's what it comes down to, the abundance of opportunity out there. Like no matter what, like I keep that in the back of my mind. Like I'll always be fine. Like I know how to make $1 this way. I can make $1 that way. Like as long as you know how to make $1, you're going to be good.
So let's double back again, right? We're playing a double back game today. It's double back Friday here on the
double
podcast.
Back Friday.
Double back Friday. Pickleback Friday. No, pass on that.
Pickleback.
So you talked about customer experience, and that's interesting. And I think for the world that we do, anything in customer service, whenever I am asked a question like what advice you would give to a new recruiter, it's really about managing expectations. And for me, that's a fundamental pillar of customer success, customer experience, really managing that communication process, under promising, over deliver. And a lot of people out there are trying to perfect it, and they're putting way too much way too much into the perfection part. What's your take on customer experience, and how do you provide the best?
Sure. The number one thing that's easiest to do in customer experience is very simple. Anybody can do this, but it's hard in practice, is being responsive, right? We live in instant gratification. We have Amazon Prime Now, like we want packages now, right? So when I want to upgrade my internet circuit as a small business, or I need to fix my phone system as a small business, like I want Kyle to answer pretty much right now. And if he's not going to answer right now, then, Adam down the street is probably going to be able to help me. The only difference there is maybe I have so much history and so much rapport built with Kyle that I can wait a day because he's at this conference today.
Right.
That's going to be the only difference. Mm-hmm. That's the only difference, right? So first and foremost, like you can beat anyone else in the market by being the most responsive, right?
Speed.
Yeah, speed.
Time
Speed
kills,
of delivery.
Time kills deals. Time.
It does. It is. I mean, that's my take on it. And obviously, like number two, like for longevity, that just comes back into building rapport, right? So not just being a transactionally focused organization. Like if you're focused so much on the transaction that you don't build the relationship, then I'm just going to see you as a 7-Eleven, right? I'm going to see you, and you're convenient today, but tomorrow there's another Circle K popped up, and they're closer to me. They're more convenient now, so I don't really care.
Totally comes down to that. So let's switch gears a little bit here. Why don't you give us a quick, and we have video here. We're doing it on Zoom, and we'll do a promo here. Mm-hmm. Kyle is a tech maven. I mean, his setup, his LinkedIn Live setup that he had at our event, literally it was like R2D2. What like so we're gonna dig into content here, but why don't you just give us a quick like 30-second tour of your new office space here? Tell everyone what kind of tech you're rolling with, what kind of cameras, what kind of mics you got going on here.
Sure. Well, this is a fixated camera, so normally if I'm doing a live stream, then I would have an iPhone on a gimbal that I could walk around and show you. So it'll be a little bit more challenging here, but essentially what you're seeing here behind me here, if I can adjust this camera a little bit, this is where we do the show. So all of this is pretty much brand new. Like over the holiday time, this is kind of what I did with my downtime in tech consulting. You know, not many people are like doing deals on December.
Yeah,
just is not really happening.
Fix your base camp.
So it's a great time to like re-strategize, overcome. So this is the traditional setup, the traditional 1 to 2 person interview setup. I love doing interviews in person. Obviously, doing them over Zoom is great too. But if anyone comes to Dallas, let's do it a live in-person interview because this is the setup. But
next to Cowboy Stadium. Oh, they just fired Garrett. Yeah, all right, we'll get to that. They didn't re-sign him.
Oh, yeah.
Well, back to the tech yet.
We were waiting for that. Anyway, so using the Rode Pod mics, these are brand new. I just got a box 2 seconds ago that I will be unboxing later. That will be amazing. The Rodecaster. So that's going to be awesome.
You got the Rodecaster. I got
the Rodecaster. Yep. But then I do the entire thing. It's all about efficiency, right? I used to have like overcomplicated like DSLRs with, HDMI going into the computer, and then there's just cables on top of cables on top of cables. So now I have 2 iPhone 11s. They're not here yet. They're coming today. 2 iPhone 11s, an iPhone 11 Pro, and that's it. That's all you need. And you switch your studios and an iPad. So I have these really, really small footprint tripods. They like fit into like about 10 inches into like a backpack or something. And now like it's the mobile live podcast production studio.
I love it. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you don't have to overcomplicate things. I mean, listen, I'm broadcasting from a conference room that I do every single time. I got my Yeti mic, I got my Yeti case, I use my MacBook Pro. I just got a brand new the Logitech 922 that I got strapped up on here for better quality. And it's progression, man. You got to figure it out. I just got LinkedIn Live, right? So I either do it on my desktop here with StreamYard, and then I go to Switcher when I want to do it on my mobile here. So as I'm growing into it, I'm going to get a little rig. I'm going to get a little light set up. But you got to start somewhere. So
you do.
One of the things that you talk about is if you have your own business, right? Even if you have a partner, some people have partners, is cool. Why do you need to have a show? Why do you need to have a podcast? Why do you need to have a live streaming show? Why is it so important in this day?
Oh. Nice setup. I'm going to slam dunk this for you. How many people pay attention to commercials?
I know what I'm doing here, man.
How many people pay attention to shows, right? Do you want to be the commercial or do you want to be the show? Be the show. That's it. It's so simple. That's the oversimplification. Be the show, not the commercial. And I think it's really important, like the way that social media has evolved to where it is now. It's just about the attention, right? If you have a business, you need to have customers, right? You have a customer that pays you money, you are now a business. Period. If they pay you $1, you're now a business. But how did you get that customer, right? You got their attention somehow, either traditional means or the new traditional means, which is social media, right? So that's how you do that at scale. Social media, show, engagement online, building a community online. That's how you do it all at scale.
Interesting. Do you think that everybody should have a show? Like, do you think there's some people that put shows out there just for the fucking sake of it, but like they're just not they're not putting out a good show, they're not putting the effort into it, or they're just doing it for the sake so they could add to their title that I'm a podcast host?
I think about that a lot. I also think we are our own worst critics. I also think that my show could be drastically improved, right? So I think about that all the time.
Absolutely.
Like, but I always go into it with the same kind of mission. Like, how can I provide like a sliver of value to one person? Either and that value could be to the person that I'm interviewing, right? Like I had a guy on the show, cybersecurity practitioner, just before the holiday break, and like he got his employer to watch the show. So even if there was only like maybe 5 extra people that watched the show, that put him on like a pedestal with his employer.
That's awesome.
that
right?
was like, wow. And he called me later.
Showcase him as a thought leader.
Yeah,
Let
he
him
called me
shine.
later, and he like just gave me like the most gracious praise ever for putting him on the show. And I'm like, dude, no, thank you for getting on the show, because it's hard to, because it was, you know, I always do it live, so it's like, like if you've never done a podcast before, never done a video, and never done live, like that was him. I threw him in a room where we're doing all three at the same time.
Right, you're
So
triple casting.
So people get nervous about that, like
They
especially
do.
when you're like, oh wait, wait, this is live. Oh wait, are you sure it's live? You know, they get all nervous.
It's a process, though. I mean, listen, this is episode. Oh God, I forgot what number you are. I think you might be 69. You know, like I look back at how far I've come as a podcast host myself, and I could do it like at the back of my hand, man. Like, and it's natural and it feels good, and you can improv and you can do. But it's like muscle memory.
Right.
It
Right.
takes a lot of effort, but you know, I think that everyone should give it a shot. I mean, in this day and age, the organic reach that you're getting is certainly incredible. So let's talk about LinkedIn Live for a minute and streaming in general.
Yes.
Again, do you agree with LinkedIn's approach to do the rollout and the beta testing, or you think they should have just opened it up to everybody?
I'm not sure exactly where I am on that side. I will say, in LinkedIn's defense, I think it does make sense for the beta, because I mean, even I'm sure you've even had issues, right? I've broken LinkedIn so many times, and maybe that like has actually done more of a disservice for the perception of my show. But for me, like, forget perception. For me, like, I know how to break this thing forwards and backwards now. So not just LinkedIn Live, but now LinkedIn Live was like my take into live streaming, period. So now I know how to live stream
on any
regardless of
platform.
LinkedIn,
right?
Regardless of LinkedIn or not. So because of that opportunity, now I know how to live stream.
Yeah, you could do it. You could do it across anything. It's interesting.
Right. But as a B2B consultant, right? Like LinkedIn is definitely the place to be. Like that's why you're on it. That's why I'm on it. Like, you know, B2B consulting, LinkedIn is like the number one spot. So I do think it's good that they had it in beta. I think that their roadblocks and their gatekeeping to like prevent people to get in, I think, you know, that could be improved, right? But how do you successfully do it, right? How do you successfully let some people stream and others not? Because you don't want to oversaturate the platform with live streamers. Like,
you don't want everyone like on with 50 followers at TikTok, right? Just to kind of, you know, take it over.
Right. Yeah. And like, and what are you going to be live streaming, right? Like LinkedIn is trying to be, they're trying, I don't even think they know what they're trying to be yet. They still don't even know, right? But they're a business platform that, like, business and personal, there's no like work-life balance, right? It's just life.
It's morphed into the same.
So who are we?
Evolution. It's a crazy evolution to watch. I mean, I've been on it since 2006, and it's crazy to watch it. And like, you know, kind of riffing on this LinkedIn Live thing, you know, I think they're gated and they ask a lot of questions in the application process to really understand what you're going to use it for, like what kind of content. And there's a person approving it behind each time you do an application, and they're looking at your content. And I think that they want to continue to provide good quality content, because if you open up LinkedIn Live to everybody, you'll literally have people turning it into Snapchat, and that's not, you know, what they want it to be. They don't want it to be, you know, a continuous stream. So let's break down your two shows. You have your podcast and your live show. How are they similar? How are they different? How do you structure them so they're unique content properties?
Yeah. So the short answer is I haven't done a good job of separating them. And the longer answer here is that's why I got that box right there, that Roadcaster. So what I'm all about right now is about efficiency. So how could I do this show, and then when I'm done, like when the show's over, guess what? It's already edited. It's already done. There's no post-production. That's what I want. I want to eliminate post-production. The only post-production that there would be is like micro clips, but audio quality is going to be good from the get. Video switching, like when you're talking cameras on you, I'm talking cameras on me, like that's already going to be done live. So it's all done live. Fading music in and out. That's what this package is for. It's going to help me do that. So I think the best answer for me is not to make them separate, but to make them one.
That's really interesting too, because I kind of had this thought last week. I did a live show with my daughter on New Year's Eve day, and I had it. I'm like, this is great. I want to make this into the regular podcast. I'm like, there's no reason that I can't take a great LinkedIn Live and then just morph it. I have the downloads. I have all of it.
Right.
Just turn it into a show, and then that's just additional content. So
yeah, here's my thought process,
yeah,
right?
please.
There's a certain type of person. There's a certain individual. We all have them. I got like maybe 10 or 15 people that like I see them at every one of my shows, and I'm so grateful for that community that I've built. They'll be on every live stream, like no matter what, like they are there every week like clockwork, and that's great. But then there's everybody else who like, hey, I don't watch live shows, Kyle. That's cool that you got one. I don't really have time to watch a live show at 3 p.m. on a random Tuesday.
Right, I'm working.
But
I'm in a meeting.
I would listen to the podcast in the car. So for me, I think as a content producer, really, if you think about it this way, by not putting the content in the form that's easily digestible for that individual, you're kind of robbing them of that information. So it's almost like our responsibility to make it accessible in as many ways as possible. As overwhelming as that is, it is overwhelming. That's the responsibility that we have as content producers, I think.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
We have a responsibility to try to do that, obviously as efficiently as possible, so that we can actually, a lot of us aren't like making money per se, dollars from the podcast that we do, but we make money from the podcast in other ways, right? It's
a halo effect. People ask me all the time, like, Adam, are you making money off the podcast? I say, listen, to get real advertisers, you need to be cruising around the 10,000 mark of downloads. I'm not even close to that yet. I don't know where you stand, right? But like, that's not why I'm doing it. You and I have for me, and I think you would agree with this, the podcast supports our brand, right? It's the halo effect. It's the attention, eyeballs. For me as a recruiter, it's showcasing my expertise as a thought leader, but more importantly, showcasing my network. So I'm bringing in my network. These are the experts, and I'm showcasing them to my tribe.
Yeah, hence the name of my show, Dialed In to LinkedIn, in the network.
We get it, man. So a big buzzword right now is personal branding, right? So let's unpack that, right? Mm-hmm. I have my take on it. When someone says to you, Kyle, what does personal branding mean to you? What do you say to them?
Online reputation. That's it. It's just reputation. It's I know if you think of like, hey Adam, who do you know that could fix the plumbing at my house? Well, who's the first plumber that comes to your mind?
Yeah, Joe the plumber.
Joe the plumber. First one that comes to my mind is Roger Wakefield, because he's on LinkedIn and he's right here locally. But because he's developed a brand as a plumber on LinkedIn, which is kind of
hyper local.
It sounds kind of weird at first, but like when I think of plumber, he's the first guy I think of. Reputation. Because
he's omnipresent. He's also developed. Now, let me ask you a question, though. In this day and age, I mean, we see everyone on LinkedIn trying to sell, like literally spewing advice on personal branding, like literally spewing it. You have to be this, you have to be that. Do you think it's causing people to try to be something that they're not and be their true self and not be really authentic? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All day. I think it's leading into a lot of, people talk about like mental health and all that stuff and social anxiety, right? I think it's all connected to all of that stuff. So the more that people say like, you have to do this, or you need to do this, or in order to be successful, you have to wake up at 5 a.m. Like when they say these things, like, there's no one way to do anything.
No, do what works for you, man.
Yeah. I mean, that there are it's certainly awesome to like understand what some people are doing. So like share those stories. Like if you wake up at 5 a.m. every day and that for you that helps you, then that's great. But say for me, this is how I do it, and this is why I do it, and this is how it helps me. You do what you want to do, but this is how it helps me. And I think if you share your story in that way,
I agree.
It's not as cringeworthy as you need to do this. You got to take cold showers.
You need to get up at 5 a.m. You need to be posting every single.
Yeah, but to that defense, right? We are all headline readers. So if the headline says you need to do this, in the past that has gotten my attention, and I'm sure it's gotten yours.
Yeah,
it's gotten our attention. But now it's not really getting my attention anymore. Now when I see it, I'm like, all right, whatever. Now it's like having a negative connotation. To me, at least.
It's tough. I mean, LinkedIn's a very interesting space right now. I think a lot of people are migrating from other platforms, whether it be YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok. Yeah. It's an interesting space to be, playing the popularity game, playing the audience hacking game. You got to really be mindful about who you're connecting with and who you're sharing and who you're taking advice from.
Right.
Check out who you're taking advice from. Have they been where you want to be? If not, then they're not worth taking advice. So let's bring it home here. Some questions that I'd love to ask every guest. I love getting the perspective here. Kyle, what is the greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on daily?
Ooh, I was not prepared for that one. The greatest piece of advice that
Maybe if you
I've
watch more
ever
of my
received.
shows, you would know that I would ask every guest at the end of it.
I know. That's on me. Greatest single piece of advice. Let's take a pass for now. Go to the next question.
What is your greatest professional accomplishment?
My greatest professional accomplishment is my daughter. That's it. Because having her is the whole reason I have a business, right? Like she kicked my ass, like just like when she was like 0 years old, and I looked into her eyes. That was it. Like no matter what happens in business, I could go bankrupt tomorrow. It doesn't matter as long as she's okay. As long as my wife and family and they're okay, like nothing else really matters. So that's my most professional accomplishment. Without her, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, which is, like you said in the intro, like I know people like dollar symbols and stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, I've done very well. Like I have $3 million in service contracts that I am responsible for maintaining, so annually. So, I mean, it's a very, very, very profitable business. I've done pretty well.
And I think that you kind of answer, well, actually, you know what? You did answer my last question, but we'll double back on that in a minute, man. Double back Friday. What is your superpower, right? And we're not talking about being invisible or setting up cool, awesome tech, but like, what do you do better than almost anybody that makes you awesome?
I think what I do the best is, I know how to spot friction. Like I know how to find it. Like in an organization, in my own life, like I know how to find it, and then I know how to problem solve to circumvent that friction. So that's what IT and technology is all about, is how do I remove friction, right? Like this is the painful process. We got 27 screens, and how do we get that down to like maybe 2 screens instead of 27? Like how do we remove friction? And it's constantly this cat and mouse game of making it better, of improving. So it's just improvement. I think I've been pretty good at like spotting those areas of friction and then solving for that.
I love it, man. So let's go back here. What is the single greatest piece of advice you ever received that you take action on daily? You're not getting away without answering it, man.
Yeah. Oh man. That I take action on daily.
Like a mantra, something you put into practice.
Yes. Health is health over wealth, right? It sounds kind of cliche, but that's been my mantra for the last 2 years. My take on it is, if I stay healthy, then I'm in the game longer. So the healthier I am, the longer that I'm playing the game of wealth. So I prioritize my priorities are, wife and daughter, number 1. Number 2 is my personal health, and my business is number 3. Like it's the last thing on that's my 3 totem pole, and it's the last one on there.
I love it. And last but not least, and I think I know the answer to this one, right? Like not every day is gravy. Not every day is sunshine and rainbows. Some days you got to look up, you got to dig down deep and harness that tenacity to drive you forward. Other days are amazing, right? You're closing deals, great podcast. And when you want to show gratitude, what do you look to? What is your North Star, Kyle Burt?
I think it's just, I'll can I share a story here? Yep. So my mother-in-law and father-in-law, Cambodian, from the Cambodian War, the Khmer Rouge, they suffered during that war. I think it was like the 70s. And so if you don't know, the Khmer Rouge were like the farmers and the poor people basically like overtook the rich and overtook the government. And it was like one of the largest civil wars in history that no one really talks about. Anyway, for, over a decade and a half, like they were just like on the run, getting shot at, like living on like little tiny grains of rice mixed with water. And like knowing that kind of stuff happens in the world still today, not as in other parts of the world, like knowing that happens, like, I just, it's tough for me to complain about a $5 Starbucks order that they put soy milk instead of coconut milk. So that's my North Star, is just perspective. When I think about, perspective, that's what it is. But when I think about, the bad stuff that goes on, that could go on, like I could lose a customer tomorrow. I'm like, all right, well, that sucks, but I'm still here and I still have this opportunity.
I love it, man. Kyle, thanks for joining me today.
Yep. Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you?
Simple. I have one link to rule them all, catchkyle.com. That just takes you to connecting with me on LinkedIn, takes you to my podcast. There's a slew of options in there that whatever floats your boat there.
I love it, man. Kyle, I appreciate you, my brother. Thanks for coming on, man.
What was that?
I said, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. I don't know if you can hear me now, so I'll close this.
I can hear you now. Yep, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining me again. I appreciate it. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on the podcast. Please be sure to comment, link, subscribe, share, and remember, do what Kyle and I do. Take your online, offline. Take care of each other. Thanks for joining us, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode jam-packed with more incredible humans. For more info, please visit www.nhptalentgroup.com.